The day has folded itself gently into evening, and you find yourself at the edge of a river older than memory itself. Take a slow breath in, hold, and release, as though your lungs were opening to the same rhythm as the current before you. The river sighs with every movement of its water, and the sigh seems to meet your chest in perfect synchrony, until you can no longer tell if it is you who is breathing, or the river breathing through you. The banks are soft, a mosaic of damp earth, smooth stones, and spreading fans of ferns that lean outward as though they are trying to glimpse their own reflections. Horsetails sway with a patience that belongs to ages, their shadows long, thin, and delicate against the last scraps of daylight. Overhead, the sky has become a canvas that shifts with every minute, lavender here, bruised indigo there, and a narrow strip of fading gold lying low on the horizon like the final brushstroke of a careful painter. You stand very still, and for the first time all day, the stillness does not feel like waiting. It feels like belonging. The air carries many voices, though none of them are loud. Insects trade their silver notes from the reeds. A frog, somewhere unseen, releases a hollow syllable that echoes and fades, like the single beat of a drum in a faraway procession. From deep within the forest behind you comes the soft crack of a branch and the hush of fronds brushing against one another as something weighty passes, unhurried and unseen. None of it alarms you. The forest is alive, but its aliveness is not a threat. It is a kind of cradle that rocks on invisible arms. Step closer to the water. The ground beneath your feet gives just slightly, spongy with moisture, springing back with each step as though the earth itself is cushioning you. You notice a stone, pale and oval, nestled at the water's edge. You reach out and lay your palm upon it. The warmth from the long day lingers, seeping upward into your skin, as if the stone has been storing sunlight just for this moment, just for you. Your fingers relax, shoulders slope downward, and even your jaw unclenches, like a gate swinging open after being stuck for far too long. Look into the surface of the river. The water is not still, but its movements are so gradual, so rounded, that it feels like stillness wearing the costume of flow. Every ripple widens in slow circles. The first stars above you shimmer faintly and immediately scatter across the surface as tiny double lights. A breeze passes and the reflections quiver, but then they return, as though the sky and the river are in constant conversation, correcting each other, repeating each other's sentences until they are perfect. Let your breathing follow. Inhale when the current swells. Hold as the ripples hesitate. Exhale as they release. Again. A little slower. Each time, the body loosens another knot. The chest is no longer a cage but a hollow vessel into which the air drifts, then departs. The rhythm of the river has folded itself into you. As you remain, a small sound rises, the rounded plop of something slipping from a root into the water. Perhaps a turtle, carrying its patience into the dark. Perhaps a fish, deciding that the surface belonged to it for only an instant before yielding again to the deep. The sound rings in the quiet like a bell struck underwater, muffled but rich. You do not startle. Nothing here startles. Every sound is part of a longer lullaby that began long before you arrived, and will continue long after you sleep. The forest behind grows quieter, as though it too has been listening to the river's patient hymn. The light softens further. That last strip of gold along the horizon drains to ash, then to violet. A single bird, dark against the new sky, arcs low over the water, wings dipping to touch the surface. For an instant it leaves a signature of circles, then they too fold back into the steady drift. You watch until the bird disappears into the far trees. Your eyelids feel heavier, drawn down by the same gravity that carries the bird, the same gravity that carries the river, the same gravity that carries you toward sleep. Pause. Notice how your hands feel. No need to move them. Just notice the gentle weight, the way gravity holds them like an anchor resting on a soft seabed. Notice how your face feels, muscles slack, forehead smooth, eyes sinking as though cushioned by cool water. Notice the way your thoughts, once sharp like stones, now tumble and soften, edges rounded by the constant wash of the river's sound. You are becoming smooth yourself, polished by the current of night. Across the river, a shadow stirs. At first you think it might be another boulder, a lump of earth or stone, but then it breathes, slow, deep, a living mountain. You see only the faintest outline, the curve of a back, the arch of a neck, the small glitter of an eye reflecting starlight. It does not approach. It does not withdraw. It simply stands there in the shallows, a shape both immense and calm, as if the river had sculpted a guardian from time itself. Whatever it is, giant, gentle, ancient, it belongs here, and in this moment, you do too. Let the sight settle in you without urgency. There is no need to name the creature. There is no need to measure or compare. Only the awareness that you are not alone, and that the presence you share this space with is not danger but reassurance. Something vast is at peace, and you are folded into that peace like a child into a blanket. Your body agrees, sinking heavier into the earth, your breath now shallow, now slow, now almost invisible. The stars above multiply. The river answers each new spark with another light doubled on its surface. You feel as though you are looking not only up, but down, and that you are suspended between two skies. The thought is not heavy. It is featherlight, and with it your mind floats, 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 until thinking itself begins to loosen. The night has arrived. The river has welcomed you. The ancient giants have begun to gather, though gently, as if their enormity were made only of silence and patience. You are safe here. You are quiet here. And you are ready for the journey downstream, where the river will carry you further into its dream. First, gentle giants at the water's edge. Let the river set your pace. Inhale with the widening of the current, hold as the ripples hesitate, exhale as they lengthen and fall away. Again. A fraction slower. You are not trying to sleep, you are simply allowing sleep to find you the way the river finds the sea, without effort, without hurry. Around the bend the bank opens into a long gravel terrace. The stones here are smoothed by ages, oval, palm-sized, cool to the touch. They shine faintly where the moon brushes them, the way dew shines on grass at dawn. The air smells mineral and green, wet stone, crushed fern, a trace of resin from a fallen cycad's cone upstream. And there, standing side by side as if they were two old cairns set by careful hands, are the first gentle giants of the night. Ankylosaurs. They are large but low to the ground, wide like the ancient logs that sometimes drift down from storms, yet every line of them is rounded and kind. Their armor is a mosaic of pebbled plates, osteoderms laid like a stoneworker's prayer across their backs and flanks. Between the plates, soft, moss-dark skin that breathes and rises and falls. Tails taper behind them, heavy and still, their famous clubs resting like boulders that have chosen the comfort of sleep over the impulse to move. The nearer one blinks, a slow, considered blink with lids that meet as patiently as two leaves. The other adjusts its stance by a hand's breadth, placing a broad, padded foot on more supportive gravel, as deliberate as a monk turning a page. You stop a respectful distance away and feel your own body take instruction. Your breath drops deeper in the chest. Your shoulders sink, not from fatigue but from finally letting go of invisible weight. The larger ankylosaur lowers its head to the water and drinks. There is no greed in the motion. The lips meet the surface, the water folds around the muzzle, small concentric circles drift outward and find the toes, the reeds, the stones, then continue. Each swallow is a soft, hollow sound, almost like the river speaking gently inside a cavern. The other ankylosaur waits, eyes half closed, the calm companion of a calm drinker. Look at their plates in the moonlight. Some are rounded like river pebbles, some slightly ridged like weathered shells. None are sharp, even their apparent roughness is a study in gentleness. The moon paints small dull halos on the domes, as if every plate were keeping a tiny, private nightlight. A moth passes and, brief miracle, lands on one plate, rests, then rises again. The ankylosaur does not notice. Or perhaps it notices and chooses stillness over reaction, choosing this unbroken seam of quiet that stretches from riverbank to sky. You kneel where the stones are smallest. The cold of the ground climbs into your knees, then gentles. You place a hand against a larger, warmer stone and imagine the deep bones under the ankylosaur's hide, slow, ancient, patient bones, resting with equal assurance on the crumb of the earth. Not braced against anything. Not preparing. Simply present, like the trunk of a tree that has known 100 summers and intends to know 100 more. Your body learns by example, it stops bracing too. A light breeze moves along the terrace. The reed tops answer in soft click-clicks, tiny bead curtains lifted by invisible fingers. The water shifts in longer folds now, swollen with moonlight, and a pale band of reflected sky slides across the ankylosaur's sides and continues downstream like a sash. The drinking one lifts its head. A small ladder of droplets descends from its muzzle, ticking quietly back to the river. The other leans forward at last to drink in turn, granting the first the complete unbroken comfort of finishing without crowding. There is etiquette here, river etiquette, night etiquette, the old etiquette of animals that have practiced coexistence for longer than memory. It moves through them the way the current moves through reeds. Let your lungs practice the same old courtesy, meet the air without crowding it, let it settle, let it go. In. Hold. Out. You are not the center of this night, you are a guest, and the relief of guesthood is profound. Guests do not perform. Guests are simply welcomed. A frog calls from the near bank. Another answers, farther down. A third replies from behind, softer, as if not wishing to interrupt. The ankylosaurs go on drinking. Their mouths make their soft hollow sounds, and their chests make the quieter sound of the living bellows that are lungs filling, emptying, filling. The rhythm joins the frogs, joins the small midnight insect choir, joins your own breath, joins the leaning of horsetails and the rounded lap of water on stone. Little by little the separate tracks in the night's recording blend into one patient track, and you are carried along it like a leaf on an evening eddy. You notice details as your eyes adjust. The armor plates nearest the shoulder are larger, those along the ribs are smaller, fitted closer together, like careful masonry. A faint seam runs where plates meet skin, feathered by short, dark filaments. Along the spine, low keels create a gentle ridge you could walk with your fingertips without ever snagging. The tail club lies half in moon, half in shadow, an ovoid weight with the serenity of a sleeping planet. Even the nostrils are round and kind, widening with each slow breath, closing in a soft pinch when the animal dips its muzzle again. You think of the word defense, and see how it sheds its edge here. On a hot day in another world, armor might mean battle. Tonight it means nothing more than a textured blanket the night can lean its cheek against. Protection is not an effort but a fact. The ankylosaurs wear their safety the way the river wears its course, without thinking, without insisting, simply as a shape the world has learned to be. The larger one shifts its weight and takes a step deeper into the shallows. The movement is heavy but not loud. The water lifts to receive the descending foot, then folds back around the ankle. A small wave travels to the bank and brushes your stones with a hiss. The animal pauses. You can almost feel the slow map of sensation in its body, the coolness of water on skin, the pressure under sole, the sturdiness of gravel, the tug of current against tail. One more breath, and it settles. Its eye half closes again, sanctifying the arrangement with sleepiness. Let your spine lengthen by a fraction. Let your jaw soften. Let your tongue rest at the roof of your mouth, broad and quiet, like a sandbar in gentle water. Imagine each vertebra finding its own small, right place, like stones in a careful wall. If there is an ache left from the day, notice it from a distance the way you would notice a small cloud across the river, present but not asserting, a detail that belongs to the more complete sky. Somewhere behind you, a low branch creaks and then sets down its own weight again. A few leaves tumble, their soft impacts brief and warm on the gravel. The drinking ankylosaur pauses just long enough for the ripples to pass, then drinks again. Your breath folds into the little pause, then unfolds. A short way upstream, the river divides around a mound of stones and root tangle, creating an eddy, a pocket of reversed flow that turns slowly on itself like a thought gently reconsidered. Small floating things spin there, a strip of leaf, a petal, a pale shred of bark. The ankylosaur's reflected outline bends when it reaches the eddy, becomes a soft patchwork of plates moving in place, then rejoins the main mirror and continues on. Your thoughts do the same. They wheel a little, play a little, then drift back into the longer current without effort. You do not have to shepherd them. The river of night is wide, and all small currents eventually find their place within it. The second ankylosaur finishes drinking and breathes out through the nose, a warm, velvety exhale that blows two little dimples into the water. It turns its head toward the first, not to demand, not to signal, but to companion. The gesture reminds you of old friends who share a bench at day's end. No agenda, no plan, only the grace of company. They stand a while like that, both looking slightly downstream, the way two readers might pause to gaze at the same page of a book before resuming. Look downstream with them. The river narrows and darkens under a reach of overhanging fronds. Beyond, the stars step down to the surface again and walk with the water. Somewhere far away, a pterosaur drifts across that ribbon of light, just a shadow with a long trailing line that must be its beak. You do not hurry to follow. You will be carried there soon enough. For now, this terrace, these stones, this company are enough. More than enough. The world is complete here, rounded at every edge. The ankylosaurs begin to move. The larger takes a single ponderous step, pauses, then another, the way a heavy drowsy creature moves when it does not wish to break the spell of comfort. Its tail club drags a lazy arc in wet gravel and leaves a shallow groove that fills at once with clear water. The smaller steps too, but keeps itself a half pace behind, as if honoring an old dance. The choreography has no start and no end. It is simply how they are, slow, deliberate, courteous. You rise, just an inch within the spine, nothing more, and follow along the terrace at a distance, keeping your feet quiet on the smallest stones, where they make a whisper rather than a clack. Your breathing measures your steps. The ankylosaurs do not mind you. You are part of the night's furniture, a tall reed that sometimes moves, a shadow that sometimes breathes, a companion untroubling as mist. When the animals reach the far end of the terrace, where the bank grows gentle again and the gravel yields to a tongue of damp soil and fern, they stop. The larger turns slightly and settles, front feet folded more under the body now, back feet planted like anchors. The armor plates shift a little as the broad frame lowers, and then becomes still. The smaller arranges itself nearby, tail in the opposite direction, so that each one keeps the other within easy, quiet view. They are not guarding. They are sharing a shape of rest that has worked for them across unthinkable seasons. Watch the breath in their flanks. In. out, in, out. The rhythm is slow even for sleep. Your own chest matches it without instruction. Your eyes drift half closed and open again, not to check, not to confirm, but simply to experience the small kindness of seeing that nothing has changed, that everything remains calm. If you listen for long enough, you can hear the softest of night's footnotes, the little settling noises of armor on hide, the minute tick of a plate against a neighbor plate when a muscle decides to release the last of its day's tension, the faint grit sigh as a heavy tail settles another fraction, the quietest rustle of fern fronds being pushed aside by moonlight, the slow conch shell sound of big lungs at rest. Each sound is a thread. Taken together they weave a blanket that lies over the riverbank and tucks every. The long drift downstream under rising stars. The ankylosaurs fade into the hush behind you, their breaths becoming part of the background night. You continue along the bank, and soon the ground slopes downward to meet the river more closely. Here the water widens again, flowing broader, slower, as though it too were preparing for sleep. The moon now sits higher, its reflection stretching like a silver road that invites you to follow without hurry, without destination. Take a breath and imagine stepping onto that reflected path. Inhale with the shining of the moon across the surface, hold as the water stills between ripples, exhale as the current carries its light farther downstream. Your chest moves with the same gentle rhythm, no faster than the river allows. Every breath lays another stone in the bridge between body and world. You find a fallen log resting half in the water, half on the bank, its bark softened by countless seasons. You sit upon it, feeling the cool damp beneath and the quiet support it offers. The log has waited years for this moment, this use, and now it welcomes your weight as though this were its single purpose. From here the view is long and uninterrupted, the river gliding away, the sky unfolding above, the banks leaning together like hands cupped around a secret. And in the middle of it all, you, no longer separate, but a piece in the mosaic of stillness. The stars are multiplying now. First 1, then 3, then 10, then too many to count. Each one doubles itself on the water, so that you feel surrounded by 2 skies, the real one above, and the river's borrowed one below. You are not under the stars, you are between them. The sensation is weightless, as though you could tip forward into either sky and continue falling forever without fear, without end. The air is cool in your nose, warm as it leaves your lips, carrying the last tension of the day away on invisible currents. A fish stirs near the far bank, making a ripple that stitches the 2 skies together. A bat swoops low, drinking on the wing, then vanishes into the tree-line with a sound so soft you could mistake it for your own heartbeat. Somewhere in the reeds, a cluster of insects finds its evening rhythm, wings droning in a steady chord that seems designed to soothe, to rock the mind as gently as a cradle. Every sound is round. Nothing is sharp. Even the silence has edges polished smooth. Let your shoulders drop another fraction. Let your jaw fall open just enough for breath to pass without effort. Notice the heaviness in your hands, the calm sinking of your knees, the long softening of your spine. You are no longer sitting, so much as settled, the way stones are settled into the riverbed, present, held, untroubled by the passage of water above. The log beneath you feels warmer now, as if it has borrowed some of your warmth and is returning it in gratitude. You are part of an exchange that has no debt, only balance. Downstream, the trees lean out across the water. Their branches arch overhead until they meet in a loose canopy, and for a stretch the river becomes a tunnel of shadow. The stars fade in that tunnel, replaced by the faint glisten of dew on leaves, and the air grows cooler, touched by the breath of hidden springs. You rise and walk slowly along the bank, each step matched to the hush of current. Gravel crunches faintly, then stills as you reach patches of damp soil where your feet make no sound at all. You could be a dream yourself, moving unseen through the night. Inside the tunnel, the river's voice deepens. The flow is thicker here, pressing against the banks with a low resonance that you feel more than hear. It is like the hum of a great instrument tuned to the key of sleep. You pause to listen, hand against a trunk, ear tilted to the music. The vibration runs through bark into your palm, down your arm, into your chest, until your heartbeat and the river's hum seem to play the same note. You hold your breath for a moment, not out of effort, but to let the sound fill the hollow space inside you completely. When you exhale, the note remains, carried on without your help. Emerging from the tunnel, you see the stars again, now brighter, sharper, more numerous. The Milky Way arcs like a pale river across the dark, mirroring the true river at your side. Above and below, 2 streams run parallel, one of water, one of light. And you, a quiet figure walking between them, belong to both. The thought is not heavy. It is featherlight, drifting across your mind before dissolving like mist. Another shape moves near the far bank. At first it seems only a hillock, a mound of earth, but then it shifts, lowering its head toward the water. The silhouette is immense, and the sound that follows is the hollow echo of a throat swallowing gallons at once. A sauropod, vast but serene, drinking under the stars. You do not need to see the details to know its scale. The sound of its breath alone tells you it carries the weight of mountains. Yet there is no fear, no danger. Its presence is simply another verse in the river's hymn, a deeper harmony added to the chorus of night. You watch it for a while, content to remain unnoticed, your breath sinking once more with the rhythm of the giant. In, as the throat swells; out, as the exhale rumbles low across the water. The cadence is slower than your own, but soon your body adapts, easing into its pace. Your pulse steadies. Your thoughts loosen their grip. The muscles in your back surrender, one by one, as though guided by the giant's breathing. When at last the sauropod withdraws into the trees, you feel no absence. The night has not lost anything, it has only shifted shape. The river continues, the stars continue, your breath continues. You rise and follow the current, each step carrying you farther into the dream that has been unfolding since dusk. Ahead, another bend, another chapter. The journey is long, but time has no meaning here. You are already where you need to be. Moonlit silhouettes. The river bends once more, curling like a ribbon folding into itself, and you follow its edge until the trees thin out into a clearing where moonlight reigns without interruption. The sky above has turned a shade deeper, the stars more numerous, the Milky Way now a white arc poured generously across the dark. Every step you take along the bank seems to echo not with sound, but with softness, your feet pressing into soil that remembers footsteps from ages long before yours. Pause here. Feel the coolness of the night air across your cheeks. Notice how your chest rises slowly, gently, as though the very act of breathing is being borrowed from the river. In, as the current slides past stones. Hold, in the pause between ripple and ripple. Out, as the water stretches downstream. You are not leading your breath, you are listening to it, the way you might listen to a lullaby that has always been there, waiting. Ahead, shadows move against the silver wash of moon. At first they seem like tall boulders, rough silhouettes rising from the earth, but then one sways, then another, and the shapes resolve themselves into beings of extraordinary grace. Stegosaurs. Their tall plates rise like sails along their backs, each one catching moonlight so that their silhouettes glow as though stitched together by silver thread. They stand near the shallows, their tails low, their heads dipped toward ferns that fringe the water. The plates rise and fall in quiet rhythm, like the pages of an ancient book being turned by an unseen hand. You keep your distance, but the distance feels like reverence, not separation. The creatures do not hurry. They do not glance at you. Their presence is a slow, wordless reassurance. One lowers its neck further, lips meeting a clump of horsetail, tearing it with the softest of sounds, a muffled crunch that barely disturbs the night. Another shifts, its hind leg lifting and planting again with the patience of stone deciding to move. The plates tilt slightly, changing the pattern of reflected moonlight across the water. Ripples scatter, reform, scatter again. And all the while the river sings its single, patient note. You kneel in the grass and watch. Each plate along the back catches light differently. Some gleam bright as polished bone, others glow faintly like parchment held to a lantern. Between them runs a ridge of shadow that deepens and softens with every breath the animal takes. Their tails end in thagomizers, spikes sharp as spears, but even here, under the moon, they appear less as weapons and more as ornaments, ceremonial feathers worn by dancers who have long since forgotten battle. Nothing in their bearing suggests danger. They are old statues that have chosen motion, guardians that walk the earth slowly enough for you to believe you might dream them into being. The air grows fragrant here. Crushed fern. Damp soil. A sweetness that might be pollen drifting from night-blooming plants hidden among the reeds. You inhale it, long and steady, and feel your chest widen, your ribs spreading like the plates of the stegosaur before you. Hold it gently. Exhale, and notice how the fragrance lingers even as the air departs. Each breath is a gift carried by the valley, passed through you, released again into the night. You are a link in the same ancient chain of exchange that binds fern to beast, beast to river, river to sky. A smaller stegosaur moves closer to the water, perhaps a juvenile. Its plates are shorter, its body more rounded. It steps with the deliberate care of the young, each foot tested before it bears weight, each movement measured against the steady rhythm of the herd. It dips its muzzle to the surface, stirring moonlight into broken silver coins, then lifts it again, water dripping like pearls from its jaw. The droplets patter back into the river in soft intervals, like a clock designed not to measure time but to dissolve it. You watch the young one pause, listening perhaps to the water, perhaps to nothing at all, then resume chewing a mouthful of horsetail with contentment. You feel your own breath mimic the slow mastication, steady, rhythmic, repetitive, until the edges of your thoughts blur and soften. The adult beside it shifts slightly, plates tilting. From your angle the silhouette now resembles a row of small sails on a drifting barge, each filled with the faintest wind. The image carries you, a barge moving without sound along a river of stars. You imagine yourself aboard, lying on your back, the plates above like sails catching not air but moonlight, carrying you through the dream stream of night. The thought lingers, then disperses, like mist unraveling in dawn. Above, a night bird arcs across the clearing, wings broad, body quiet. It cuts through moonlight and vanishes again. The stegosaur herd pays no notice. They are older than birds, older than this moon, older than the rivers themselves. Their patience is a hymn without beginning or end, and you are only one more listener added to its endless congregation. Your eyelids lower further, heavy with the weight of calm. Your body folds into the ground, no longer perched, no longer alert. You could fall asleep here against the grass, and nothing would disturb you, not the steps of the giants, not the flow of the river, not even the movement of time itself. For time here is rounded, curved, softened. Minutes do not march, they drift. Hours do not pass, they pool and circle. You are no longer bound by them. You are carried within them, as safe as a child in a cradle rocked by invisible hands. One stegosaur turns its head toward the sky, neck long and arched, plates gleaming behind like a row of lanterns. For a moment it looks almost like a cathedral, ribs rising, spine vaulted, plates glowing like stained glass. The image presses into you without effort, filling the hollow spaces of your mind with calm architecture. You close your eyes, and behind the lids the vision remains, moonlit plates, river of stars, patient silhouettes standing forever at the edge of time. Breathe once more with them. In with the slow crunch of fern, hold with the stillness between steps, out with the ripples sliding downstream. Again. Slower still. Each breath a deeper surrender. Each breath a longer drift. Until even breathing itself feels optional, a task the river can carry for you. The herd does not leave. It does not arrive. It simply is. And in this presence, you too simply are. No effort. No weight. Only quiet existence. The river continues its hymn. The moon continues its watch. And you are folded deeper into the dream. Sandbar camp and distant nesting grounds. Downstream, the river loosens its grip on its own banks and spreads itself thinner, as if it, too, wished to recline. The current slackens. Silt settles in quiet folds. Ahead, a pale shape rises from the water, an island not quite an island, a long sandbar braided with driftwood, willow-like shrubs, and mats of grass that seem to have been laid out by a patient hand. The moon pours across it like milk, and the edges glow, rounded by countless small tides. You step onto the bar where the water is ankle-deep and warm, and the sand gives in a generous way, cradling your feet, holding, releasing, holding again, like the steady rise and fall of breath. Breathe with it. In, as the sand lifts under the sole. Hold, in the soft pause while grains settle. Out, as your foot withdraws and the river fills the print. The pattern repeats without hurry. You feel the small architecture of relaxation assembling inside you, bone fitting to bone, muscle to earth, thoughts to silence, until standing itself becomes a form of resting. The sandbar offers a natural camp. A crescent of drift logs has gathered at the upstream tip, their silvered skins worn smooth by years of water and sun. Behind them, low bushes huddle, leaves narrow and glossy, their undersides flashing pale when the breeze turns them. You choose a place where a long log lies parallel to the current, and sit with your back against its softened bark. It is the perfect height to receive a spine tired of being tall. The wood is cool where the moon touches it, warm where it remembers the day. The minute your weight settles, the body understands, here is safe ground. Here, we can sleep. Across the channel the far bank rises, dark with cycads and tree ferns. Somewhere beyond that low ridge, a faint sound carries, repetitive and gentle, like palms cupped and released against wet clay. You listen, head tilted, breath suspended. The river sings underneath, but between its notes the sound persists, nesting, a rhythm as old as eggs. You picture broad, careful feet pressing circles in beach-soft dirt, scoops of sand drawn aside by muzzles, leaves placed in layers like blankets tucked by an unhurried nurse. The mind does not have to try to see. It knows. You arrange your camp the way the river would, with the fewest possible gestures. One folded jacket for a pillow. One drifted reed mat for a blanket, woven by flood and accident and time. Your hands move slowly, as if each motion were being remembered, not invented. When you lie down, the sand receives the length of you like a mold made just for this moment. Your attention expands, and then softens, like a lantern that brightens once, then dims to a steady glow. Beyond the log, the water ticks softly against trapped twigs, a thin line of foam curls, collapses, curls again, repeating some ancient sentence to itself until meaning and sound become the same. The nesting rhythm grows clearer, your ears are adjusting to the night's language. Sometimes there is a whisper of leafy stems dragged across ground, sometimes a low breath that hums in a chest the size of a boat. You imagine a hadrosaur colony settled somewhere on a wide bare bank, oval nests scooped in orderly patterns, adults stepping slow between them, checking, turning, attending. The air over there might smell faintly of churned sand and sweet plant sap. Here it is river cool, mineral bright, touched by the grass scent lifted from your own little camp. You inhale and picture the two airs mixing above the water, meeting, blending, becoming one. Closer, at the quiet heart of the sandbar, small lives are conducting their ceremonies. A beetle navigates between the threaded roots of grass, its back a dark moon. A spider crosses from twig to twig, anchoring a line that trembles with so little wind it might be responding to your breath alone. From a shallow puddle left by the retreating river, a chorus of tiny frogs rehearses the night's score, each voice a bead on a long string, aligned but distinct. When you tilt your head, you find a turtle no larger than your palm, half buried where wet and dry meet, eyes polished marbles aimed at nothing in particular. It does not withdraw when you notice it. It has chosen the same ease you have, the ease of belonging. A rustle rolls the length of the driftwood pile. You turn your head slowly and see a shadow lifting itself over the far log, a crocodilian, small and slim, more curious than bold, its back like a piece of braided river. It pauses in a pool of moonlight, lifts its nostrils, and tastes the air, river, reed, your quiet human scent, the distant green of the nesting grounds. Deciding that none of it requires a sharper mood, it slides soundless along the margin where water licks the wood and comes to rest with its chin just at the surface. Only the softest V of ripples betrays its presence. You feel the same V-shaped calm in your chest, two lines of sensation meeting and flowing forward. The sky continues its patient work. Stars multiply, then concentrate, then spill across the dark in long hazy lanes. If you half close your eyes, the galaxy becomes a sandbar of light, an island strung inside the night's own river. The image layers itself over the scene at your feet until you cannot tell whether you are lying on a bar of sand with a river of stars above, or on a bar of stars with a river of water below. The confusion is not trouble, it is a widening, a gentle kind of vestibule where sleep waits with the door open. From downstream a mild shower drifts in, rain that has forgotten urgency. The first drops are exploratory and far apart. Then a thin curtain lays itself across the sandbar, each drop whispering as it writes a brief circle on the skin of the river. The smell comes at once, wet dust made fragrant, leaves washed of all their small fatigue, bark releasing the day it stored. Your face remembers a childhood the body never lived, afternoons under porches, the sky turning from white to pewter, the happiness of having nothing to do but listen. The croc blinks and lets the drops pattern its head, the turtle sinks a little deeper, the spider holds its silk like a harpist resting between songs. You draw your blanket of reeds up to your chest and allow the rain to find the places along your jaw and temples that still held on to the day. Each drop is a tiny untying. Across the water the nesting bank brightens for a moment with a silent flash of lightning far away, so far the thunder never comes. For the blink of that pale light you see suggestion turn to scene, a broad slope of pale soil, dark ellipses scooped in rows, mounds ringed with plant stems, and among them large, warm bodies moving with a care that is almost ceremonial. One shape lowers its head and exhales across a nest, stirring a little steam that curls like a breath made visible. Another leans to roll an egg with the side of its jaw, turning it as a careful baker might turn a rising loaf. The light disappears and the world resumes its softer outline, but your mind does not need details now. It has understood the pattern, rhythm, attention, rest. The rain passes the way visitors depart from a quiet house, coats on, doors shut gently, footsteps fading to nothing. The air behind it is clearer. The river shines with a new polish. You feel the cooled sand slowly surrendering the heat it had hoarded, smooth as a sigh. Your eyelids drift lower. You do not force them open. You do not make promises to stay awake. You release your duty to witness. The night can proceed whether you see it or not, and this truth is a comfort, not a loss. A shape looms over the upstream point of the bar, a sauropod crossing the shallows, its knees lifting high, tail following along a gentle arc that writes on air, erases, writes again. It does not come close, it does not intrude. It moves the way a hill might decide to rearrange itself by fractions. The river parts gladly around its legs and then comes back together, leaving no scar. You feel the softness of scale against water although you cannot hear it. The weight of it presses a slow swell across the bar that slides under your log and lifts you not at all, only persuades your bones to remember floating. The sauropod passes like an idea too large to hold, and so kind that it does not ask to be held. Sleep gathers at the edges of your attention. When you breathe in, your ribs expand outward like small sandbars of their own. When you breathe out, they sink back with the tide. Every exhale is longer than the last. Every inhale is an invitation answered by the body without language. You reconstruct your form as a place, not a task, the hollow of the throat a quiet cove, the belly a shallow bay where no waves arrive, the hips two low peninsulas, the legs long spits of sand pointing downstream. A small wind moves across you, your own breath, smoothing, smoothing, smoothing. From the nesting ground comes a new tone, a thin, fluting peep, delicate as a drop falling inside a shell. Another answers. Another. The first hatchlings have pierced the soft white and are speaking the only word they know, here. The adults shift in a murmur of heavier breaths and deeper chest notes. No alarm. Only a careful rearrangement, a making of room. You feel the tender gravity of 1,000 such moments layered through time, first breaths, first steps, first feedings under skies no one remembers but the river. A warmth collects in your chest that is not sleep and not wakefulness either, but a kind of consent, yes to the world continuing, yes to the small succeeding the large, yes to the patient instructions of life. You roll, very slightly, and the reed blanket rustles a phrase that could be translated as stay. The drift log at your back supports the tilt. The sand molds again with the practiced intuition of water-made earth. Your face finds a gentler angle. The muscles along your neck lengthen. Your mouth falls open by a width no one would notice. A tiny snore rises and surprises you with the intimacy of its kindness. You allow it. The body knows what to do now. You are the guest of a knowing older than you. On the near margin of the bar, the crocodilian lifts its head and yawns, showing a pale map of teeth like pebbles pressed into soft clay. It closes its mouth again with a click as faint as a bead settling into a bowl. Far overhead, a pterosaur scribes a brief line between stars, wings barely moving, the rest of its flight a study in trust. You watch it through half-lidded eyes until the line dissolves into the dark. The turtle resumes breathing at its almost invisible pace. The spider's line, freshly beaded with rain, catches the moon and gives it back in crumbs. You drift. Not away from the world but further into it, as though lowering yourself into a warm pool. Thoughts migrate outward like fish leaving the shallows for the calm midwater. Sensations dissolve from words into textures, cool, warm, heavy, light. Time loses the hard edge that divides minute from minute and begins to pool like the river at a bend. Somewhere in that pooled time, the distant night chorus of hadrosaurs. The sandbar drifts away behind you, blurred by mist and memory, as if the river itself had folded that chapter closed with gentle fingers. The current carries you farther into the deep valley night, where sound has become the softest of lanterns, guiding the senses through dark corridors of water and air. The moon has climbed higher still, its pale face looking down as though it, too, were leaning over the river to listen. And there is much to listen to now. First it comes faintly, like the suggestion of a tune remembered in sleep, a low, resonant hum, drawn out and rounded, swelling across the stillness. You pause on the bank, ears tilted to catch it. The note rises and falls, and then another joins it, and another, until the quiet is filled with overlapping tones that weave and unweave like long ribbons. It is not chaos. It is not chatter. It is something slower, deliberate, measured, the chorus of hadrosaurs. Breathe with them. In, as one call deepens into the belly. Hold, as the night seems to pause with the sound. Out, as the note stretches and thins, then dissolves into mist. Your lungs are instruments now, tuned to the ancient choir, joining without needing to know the score. Every exhale is a harmony, every inhale a preparation for the next line. You follow the voices downstream until the trees part to reveal a wide gravel shelf washed by moonlight. And there they are, a herd of hadrosaurs, broad-bodied and tall-backed, clustered like living statues along the water's edge. Their crests glow faintly, translucent in the moonlight, each one a unique shape, tubes, domes, ridges, like natural horns carved by patient time. When they breathe through those crests, sound emerges, amplified and deepened, resonant enough to tremble in your chest though you stand far away. It is music without beginning or end, played not for audience but for existence itself. They stand in groups, some drinking, some grazing on horsetails, some resting with their heads low, eyes half closed. One adult, larger than the rest, raises its crest to the sky and exhales a call so long and low that the gravel under your feet vibrates. It is not a warning. It is not even a message. It is a kind of devotion, a hymn offered upward, outward, inward all at once. The others answer in turn, overlapping, interlacing, until the clearing becomes a cathedral of sound, the river its nave, the moon its ceiling of light. You lower yourself onto a smooth stone and close your eyes. At once the chorus wraps you. Each call is a note, each note a wave, each wave lifting and lowering you like a small boat tied to the shore. Some tones are bass deep, shaking the bones of the valley. Others are higher, thinner, weaving threads of melody through the heavy fabric. Together they form a tapestry that needs no translation. The meaning is not in words but in the way your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm, the way your breath lengthens, the way your thoughts scatter like birds and do not return. The herd shifts slowly. A young one steps forward, crest smaller, voice higher, its call a tentative echo of the adults. The sound trembles, then steadies, then joins the harmony, no longer separate. The older hadrosaur beside it lowers its head, muzzle brushing the youngster's side in a gesture that is both guidance and reassurance. The music continues, patient as always, welcoming the new voice as though it had always been there. The air is thick with fragrance, crushed reed, wet stone, the faint sweetness of cycad sap. When you breathe it in, it feels almost visible, as though the scent were threads of silver weaving themselves into your lungs. Hold it, let it expand, let it settle. When you exhale, you imagine the breath leaving as a new tone in the chorus, invisible but real, joining the herd across the water. For a moment you are not merely listening to the choir, you are inside it, one more instrument in an orchestra as old as the river itself. The moon glints along the hadrosaur backs, catching the subtle rise and fall of their sides as they breathe. Their tails lie still, heavy but peaceful, like beams of a bridge anchoring them to earth. Their eyes are dark but not closed, gleaming faintly, reflecting starlight as though each one contained its own private sky. In their stillness there is no hardness, only weight, and in their weight there is comfort. These are creatures who have carried their kind across millions of nights, who will carry them across millions more, and tonight, for a while, they carry you too. Time stretches. Minutes loosen into long strands. The chorus swells and fades, like tides turning in place. Your own body follows, inhalation longer, exhalation longer still, until you cannot remember when the last began or when the next will end. You are not falling asleep, you are being sung to sleep, the way the river sings to stone, the way wind sings to leaves. The difference between waking and dreaming thins until it is less than the width of a reed stem. At last the herd grows quieter. Calls grow shorter, spaced farther apart, then taper into silence. A few linger, deep and final, like the last notes of an organ echoing in the rafters. Then the hadrosaurs lower their heads, muzzles brushing gravel, and begin to rest. One exhales a long sigh that sends ripples across the river, reaching you where you sit. The ripples kiss your ankles, and you feel yourself exhale in answer, not from choice but from agreement. The night has chosen the cadence, and you follow. You lie back upon the stone, the chorus now a memory lingering in the air like smoke after incense. The stars above are brighter than ever, multiplied, thick as sand, and you imagine the herd's voices still climbing among them, notes strung across constellations, tying you to the vastness without fear. Your lids lower. Your mouth softens. Your breath is the only song now, a quiet thread woven through silence. The river moves on. The herd sleeps. The night holds you. And in that holding you drift, soundlessly, downstream into deeper dreams, where other giants wait in patience to be found.